I'm getting nostalgic for 2019, especially these days. I don't know what it is exactly that makes me want to go back to that exact year. That was a really, really hard year. I mean, there are plenty of pre pandemic days that I'm not feeling nostalgic for right now. But the days of 2019 were filled with a lot of wonderful days with a man named William, who was a caregiving client that I had, who, by the time that I met him, he was in the last year of his life, and he had pretty bad dementia, but had a really wonderful attitude throughout the time that I met him. I mean, he could get angry, he could get aggressive sometimes. I mean, that's the standard of dementia and Alzheimer's. But he was just very fun. He was a person you were always happy was there. A person that was always, he'd be sitting in the corner and I could kind of tend to my own things. You know, he'd call for if he needed food or to go to the bathroom or something. I really, really miss him. And I feel like along with him, I just miss those days. But it's just funny. I mean, it's always a thing with nostalgia. I wasn't amazingly happy in those days. I was very frustrated with my circumstances and wanted them to be different a lot of the time. I loved hanging out with him, and I was an in-home caregiver for him, so I'd just chill around his pretty nice house. And I was just so frustrated because, I was still pretty fresh out of college, still finding my way through life like I am right now. I was in an even less stable position than I am right now. But now I just really want those days back. I know it's not exactly a healthy mindset to have. I'm still doing my best to make the best of these current days I'm living in. But I could go for some of those William days, especially because he had pretty bad dementia. He didn't really even know his own name anymore. So I was told to call him Grandpa, and that was really nice because I didn't have a good relationship with either of my grandfathers. I technically have 3 grandfathers. My mom's biological father, who abandoned her, never met him, talked to him ever. My mom's stepfather, who was effectively my grandpa, he was her stepdad since she was a little kid, who had pretty bad dementia and was pretty abusive to a lot of members of our family. And, I love that guy. I love that guy so much. I don't want to just paint him like that. There's a lot that I could talk about with him. I miss that guy too. But I didn't really ever know him when he was lucid. And then I also had my paternal grandfather who was dead within a year or two of my being alive. So by getting to call him Grandpa, I just knew him as Grandpa William. It felt like a nice little resurgence of, I don't know, having that kind of figure in my life. And then, the biggest thing that I miss is the days outside, because when it was nice and sunny, and sometimes completely unprompted by me or his daughter, because she liked to get him outside as much as possible. Sometimes he'd just be like, "Let's go outside." Heck yes. I'd get his Adirondack chair ready for him. I'd get some blankets ready for him because he was always chilly, even when it was hot out. And we'd just sit outside. He loved having the sun right on his face. I'd play music on my little Bluetooth speaker, and he really, really liked the vibrations. He didn't have great hearing, but he loved the vibrations of the sound, and so he would just hold it, clasp it between his hands, and it just gave him so much satisfaction. I'd play all kinds of music, old-timey stuff sometimes to more appeal to what he might have been listening to when he was young. But then I'd also sometimes play trap music, sometimes some really filthy rap music because it was funny. But then, also just some music that had a really good bop to it. And he'd just sit there and tap his foot and nod his head. And we'd just we'd just chill out in the grass, and just everything was okay in those times. And he's gone now, but there's always music, and there's always great people not too far away from me. And I just might invite one of them to go sit out in the grass with me and nod our heads and tap our feet. And maybe I could even feed them some mashed potatoes like I did with him.